I'm just gonna jump in and I'm gonna have you introduce yourself to me, and then I'll go through. I have just a handful of questions for you, and then we can sort of conclude on you kind of just giving us the full rundown pitch of your series. But to start, just who are you? How'd you get into comics? How many series do you have out, and so on?
Yeah, so I'm Rick Duree from St. Louis. I've been doing comics for a couple of years now. I've been reading them for about 15 years, very actively, and just really wanted to tell my story in a comic format. That's why I went into creating these Orphan Bloodline series. This is our third issue. We have our fourth underway that'll be coming out in January. We also have a side story, two side stories that are either completed or being done, and a source book, which is awesome because we really love being able to give more content. I'm all about world building. I'm about getting people to delve deep into the worlds that we create as creators, and so the source book helps with that a lot. Giving you history, politics, religion, get you the ins and outs of secret combinations that are definitely part of the bloodline.
Does that act as like what exactly is a source book? So like what's all included in it? If there's I'm assuming it's not really story, it's more like is it backgrounds of the characters? Are there maps to the world? What's all included in that?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we talk about character dossiers. We have a coloring book, which is 20 pages of coloring book in there, which is awesome. We have, like I said before, the politics and religion of the bloodline. That's secret combinations, Illuminati in the series. We have the world map of how the different factions of the bloodline lay out, how they interact with each other. So it's more about behind the scenes operational information of the world. We have a historical timeline because the bloodline started back in Pharaoh's time. So not every, but most big rulers since Pharaoh have been had gained power because they had a special blood power, which of course came from their bloodline. They were in that particular lineage. So we do stories all through history. We have a Coven story back in the 1400s. We have a Persian versus the Greek story coming out next year with Hydernus the Younger. We have obviously a Pharaoh story. So we have a Japanese story with the Emperor of Japan, Hirohito. It's great. It's great stuff.
Oh, yeah, awesome. I want to back up for a second. Did you know that I'm from St. Louis?
I can't remember if I knew that. There are a lot of St. Louis comic people. That's true.
Yeah, it's interesting. It seems to be once I started noticing a few, it's like now it's happening all the time.
Yeah.
And so I'll dive into like how often do you have you been into any Comic Cons, whether locally or anywhere else?
Yeah. So I've gone to them in the past for sure, and I go to the small ones and big ones here in St. Louis. But the one that I was doing my table at for the first time for my comic was in Fort Worth, Texas, with the Cowtown Comic Con. That was just last month. Had a great time with my Charter family. Charter is the group that was the presenter for my comics, and so I'm a huge fan and supporter of that organization. They do a great job supporting indie comics.
Yeah, I was gonna get into that. So if you're from here, and most of those people with charter are all in Texas, how'd you get it? Are you? Did you live in Texas, or how did that happen?
I just reached out to people. I reached out to publishers and comic creators here in St. Louis. I reached out to them online on Facebook groups, and just the one that fit me best was Charter. So that's why I'm there. But I mean, there's good groups everywhere for sure, and that's the thing we found with social media is that you can live any country you want to live in and be in this community.
Oh
We're
yeah,
all
that's what's great about it.
yeah.
Did how are any of your artists? Did you find locally? How'd you find your artists for the series?
So I've had artists who are from Africa, from Mexico, from Indonesia, from China, and now I have my new main artist from Jacksonville, Florida. So I go wherever the art takes me. For instance, I'll show you this here. One of our side stories is in the old ukiyo-e style, which that's represented here on this tarot card. The old ukiyo-e style is what we use to do our side story in Imperial Japan. I want to find artists that can do their local art in their local artist's style. So the Persian comic book should be drawn by, someone who has experience drawing Persian style art. And the Mayan history one we have coming up should be drawn by someone who has experience in Mexico, which we've lined up. So I don't know. I think it's kind of fun. It's a different way of doing it. It doesn't have to be that way. This is not the end all be all, but I think it's interesting.
That's a cool way to do it. If you could actually get artists from the period or the
Right.
location of the world that it takes place in. Which did you take any? Is your fictional story based on anything that happened in real life, or even rumors or anything like that?
Yeah, the whole story is based on real life. We have real science, we have real biology, we have real blood disorders, and that's the whole premise of the story: is taking what's really the real pain that we all face in different parts of our life, and going through the trauma and the drama of what that pain brings us. In this case, blood disorders, and then in our story, the mad scientist, obviously from Wuhan, China, just randomly experiments on humans and puts cybernetics and biomachinery onto these people who are from the bloodline, who are down the line. And with these blood disorders means that they're in the bloodline, the lineage from Pharaoh. And when you get the cybernetics interacting with the blood disorder, what you come out with is a very powerful blood power. So your weakness is transformed into a superpower in our comics, and it's very unique. Every individual is unique. Here's one of our tarot cards graded here with the holographic. This is Manga. She has a cybernetic eyeball there. You can see with her patch. This is the main character, Ace. He has bio bracers, taking the metal out of his blood with his bio bracers. They magnetically pull it from his blood and his wrists, compact it into bullets, and then he's shooting rail guns of his own blood bullets. So you take the blood disorder of holding on to metal, for instance, and you turn it into a blood power through that cybernetic advancement of his rail guns.
Interesting. So, you got all these merchandise, or like you got the source book, you got the trading cards.
Oh,
How much of your revenue comes from outside of the Kickstarter campaigns?
oh well, everybody who buys a book, they buy some kind of merch, and I give away a lot too. If you buy a book and you get a physical book, I'm going to send you the stickers. I'm going to send you the bookmark. I'm going to send you all that for free because I want you to have stuff that represents this world. Part of what I want to build is the world. And if there's a creator out there who wants to write a comic in my world, I'm totally open. Let's talk about it. Let's make it happen. Because I think the world building of your pain, your biological true reality, transforming into a blood power that you could realistically believe could happen. I mean, that's a new magic system that's not been done before. So we want to expand this magic system across the world to our fellow fans.
Nice. So you said that if a reader or someone else came up to you and said they want to write a story within your realm, you'll partner with them. No questions
Absolutely.
asked.
100%, no questions asked. We're in. Because we want people to be invested, and maybe they have a character they want to do. One of the tiers in our Kickstarter is you can pay $150 and then you get drawn into the comic, but you don't get drawn in as an extra, on the side. You get drawn in as a main character. Now it may not come out till comic 8, issue 8, but that's okay. I mean, if you want to be in there, I'll bring you your character that we create together with your blood disorder, with your idea of what cybernetics works with that biology, and we'll make it come in as a main character because we want people to be in the world and owning it, have that ownership.
Gotcha. So what do you do to bring in readers? How do you what all marketing did you do for your first campaign, and what are you doing now aside from creator interviews?
Yeah. So obviously podcasts work great, but you have the Facebook groups posting on there regularly. You have family and friends and fools, family, friends, and fools that that you're reaching out to. You have people in the industry who are your supporters. We have over 40 creators involved in our system, in our books, and so you ask them to throw $5. They've been hundreds of dollars each, so throw $5 towards it. So you get your friends, family, and fools. You get your Facebook groups. You get your podcasts, and I mean that's where it starts. Then you have to build your email list, which you go to cons, and you get your email lists from your buyers there. And when people are walking by your table and they're just going by the hundreds, you got to stop them. And so that's what we did with our barbecue rub. This is the Orphan Bloodline seasoning, best seasoning in the world. But you say, hey, you want to taste this rub? They're like, sure. Oh, and while you're in my booth, let me tell you about my story. So we got some really good return on tasting out the rub. And people, I mean, there was a good dozen people that just bought the rub and went on. I was happy to sell them that.
No
So
need for the story. Just give me the rub.
give me the food. Yeah.
Wild. So you have a you set it up right. So you pretty much got it from kind of pre-production stuff, and then you eat all the way down to go into cons and how to pull people at cons. So what all where all can people buy your books if they aren't going through the Kickstarter? Like after the Kickstarter's done, do they go
Yeah.
through your
Yeah.
website, or what's the main
Yeah.
source point for that?
So orphanbloodline.com, straightforward. If you want to do the Kickstarter, it's orphanbloodline.com/Kickstarter. Again, straightforward. We are easy to reach on social, or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, or all of them, whatever. And just message us, and we'll be right there to talk with you. We want to be connected with the people. We want to build those collaborations. So we're doing extra stuff beyond Orphan Bloodline. We're starting a comics awards, annual awards ceremony, where we focus on just people who have Kickstarted or Indiegogo or some kind of crowdfunding in the last year. We're doing that. There's 10 of us involved right now. We're moving that up to probably, we'll have 40 or 50 people involved in that. So we can really have a substantial splash next year. We're doing lots of little things and big things, because that's what you have to do to be relevant in any industry, but especially in comics today. You have to stand out by offering more than just a story. Now, for me, story is number one, but let me just show you here in my book, the covers are holographic. You can see that reflection. And on every single page, we have these little QR codes, and the QR codes bring you to a music video on YouTube. And every single page has a music song for that page that you can listen to while you're reading the page. So we're trying to bring interaction and immersion into the story, and I hope people can appreciate it.
No, yeah, this is why I wanted to dive deep into your stuff, because you do exactly kind of what I preach of building not just a story, but a whole IP empire based upon your kind of the story that you start with can branch out into other things. So you've got all the way from music, trading card. Who do you use to make your trading cards and print your
Right.
stuff? Do you use the same one, or have you tested out different ones, and which ones didn't work, and so on?
Yeah. So in my professional job, I'm an entrepreneur. I've done multiple businesses, and I had some connections with different Chinese publishers, printers. And so I sourced those through Alibaba, and got some connections for some very affordable pricing. Of course, you got to buy in bulk, and a lot of creators don't want to do that. They want to buy 25 copies at a time. And so we know Comic Wellspring works great for that kind of a thing. Or your local printer down the street might work. It's kind of pricey at those small quantities, but I get my stuff from my supplier that I have for my business. It's the best pricing. And if anybody wants those kinds of connections, you can totally contact me. I will tell you my pricing that I get and where I get it from and how to do it for the best price. Because what we need to do is stay relevant. And when I'm seeing people launch their Kickstarters for a graphic novel and they're charging $50, I don't. Not everybody can afford that. We need to bring those prices down, and one way to help do that is by bringing down our publication costs. I know that a 200-page graphic novel with a good cover and good thick paper, you might pay $15 to get it printed at the American printers, and if you can get that for $4 in China, I mean, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
That's amazing. Yeah, you're the first comic creator I've talked to that actually sourced directly overseas through the Alibaba connections. I'll definitely, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll put in the show notes your website so that people can reach out to you for those kinds of connections. So the shipping overseas doesn't affect things, or do you just like allow it to be do it so far in advance that like shipping by ship or something like
Mhm.
that makes it cheaper? Or how can you afford the shipping overseas?
Right. So it's interesting you say that. Let me just before, I'm not gonna give away any secrets here, okay?
Okay.
I'll give away secrets personally. If you want to message me, I'll give you all the secrets you want. But let me just say, whatever you're paying for the book from China, or the trading card, or the stickers, or the buttons, whatever you're paying, you can count on shipping to be about 10% of that. So an example, this button costs like, I don't know, 12 cents or something like that, 15 cents. And so shipping would have been a penny and a half. You can count it to be about 10% of the cost. So take that how you will. Now, I'm not ordering 20 comics. I'm ordering 500 of volume one, 500 of volume two. And they throw in extra covers for me. So I got 500 books, but I might have 4 covers in there. You know what I'm saying? But the
Hmm.
interior pages are all the same. So I have plenty of covers, of the same book with different covers. But I got 500 copies, and then they come all beautifully done, super thick paper, great color, and it's very affordable.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Because even if you were to use a printer in the US, they often charge shipping, and they actually use some outside Chinese company to print anyway, and they end up charging you for shipping as well. So it's not like you're getting any deals by going through the US anyway.
I
Nice. Yeah,
I
that's
will
good,
tell
that
you,
10% number.
yeah, that's just it's a plus or minus guess, but it's about right. Let me give you another thing about China, which is a bad thing, because I mean there's pluses and minuses in all these organizations. Part of my comic, you can see here on the back of comic number one, is a Chinese flag. This book is a double cover of America versus China in some ways. It's kind of there's a little bit of nationality there, and you'd get that knowledge in the source book. It would tell you about the different factions across the world. But the guy there, he's the main villain, and he's there with the flag, the Chinese flag. I went to a couple of printers who I know personally. I know them, and they refused to print it. They said if they printed it, they'd be fined by the Chinese government, and they wouldn't be allowed to print anymore in the country
Whoa,
because
that's
they had
wild because of that
yeah,
flag.
this is true. This is true story. Happened to me just this year, and I had to switch printers. Because the final printer that agreed to come with me, I had to convince them that this guy actually turns to do good by the 11th comic, like way down the road, so that they would print
Whoa.
the book because they
Yeah.
didn't want to say that they were printing a book that had China in a bad light. It was just early in the story, which actually is true, but man, it was a battle to get this approved.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. It's like you hear about that stuff in movies, and now we see it in the comic realm.
Right. It's
Did you
real.
ever do any paid advertising? Did you try any Facebook ads or Google ads or YouTube or anything like that?
I boosted on Facebook for like $20, like nothing, right? Just to see what would happen, and nothing happened. And I followed a whole bunch of people that were referred to me to just add them to my friends list to get them in the group. Probably 80% of those people never ever see my posts anyways, because I was just adding people. So if you're going to add people, add who you know that you have interactions with, so that Facebook knows you're not just grabbing lots of people, because they can know that their algorithms will block that out. So number one, add who you know, and that's pretty much all you need to add. Don't add a whole bunch of people for no reason. And then the paid advertising, it works, but it works if you're going to spend. And this is what the marketers, professional marketers, will say: if your product costs $10,000 to make, you need to spend $8,000 on marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the big TV shows, Lord of the Rings, Marvel movies, the big movies, they have a budget of a quarter million, let's say. I mean, 250 million, quarter billion. They have to spend another quarter billion on the advertising. It's
Yeah.
always 1 to 1 from production costs to marketing costs. It's usually like 1 to 1 ish. I don't do that. If I did, then I would be more successful and I'd be reaching more people. But a lot of people don't have that kind of cash just sitting around. So.
No, yeah, that's why I asked that, because it's not always something people do, and if they do, they aren't always successful with it. So whenever I find someone that has had
Yeah,
success, it is always they went through the basic motions. They spent way more than anyone else would ever expect or actually dive into from a get-go, especially
yeah.
if it's their first or even second or first volume. So which reminds me, so you're at your third issue of this series, and do you plan on releasing a trade at all?
Yeah, the goal is to do a trade at issue 6 and a trade at issue 11. So the first 6 will be in one, the next 5 will be in one. And that's all written already. Written, scripted, paneled out. It's all done. Now we're just waiting for the art. We have the art for 1, 2, and now 3 is underway. 4 starts in January. We have a side story plus another side story being done. And then we have the source book. So we're on our way. But it's going to take in the next year, a year from now, to get to issue 6 for the graphic novel, full first 6 issues to be put together. But that's going to be, I mean, that's the story is amazing. It comes in 2 parts. You have the first 3 issues is part 1 story arc of Ace and how he gets his powers, how the bloodline works, how the nations interact, kind of that basics of the world building. And the next 3 issues is about how he kind of, takes over a little bit, uses his newfound powers for good or for ill, as you can discover. So that's the next second part of the arc. And then the next graphic novel, I mean, you're getting into some crazy crap, some real crazy stuff. There's brothels, there's there's sex rituals. I mean, we stay PG-13, but we touch adult topics for sure.
Okay, gotcha. Um, did you mention about multiple artists? Is it the same primary artist throughout the whole series, or do you have different artists for each issue?
So far, every issue has had a different artist. I'm not saying this is the way to go for you people who want some advice on this that are listening. I'm not saying this is the way. This is just what I've done. Is I found an artist for the first issue. I found an artist for the Japanese story. I found an artist for the second issue. Now I have a new artist that's helping out with the third book, and he's also doing the fourth book. So that's my game. Is that the right way? Is it the wrong way? I can't tell you. That's just what we've done.
Interesting. Do you have any other series that you're working on aside from that? Do you ever plan on going through the direct market or anything like that? Going
Well,
through
there's
comic shops? Or I guess Charter is in comic shops. Never mind.
yeah, Charter has its own comic shop in Texas, but we're also trying to get involved in the national distribution game. So next year, I believe, we'll have some good news to spread, and Orphan Bloodline will be part of that, which is great. I'm honored that I was able to be part of the group. But you don't have to wait just for that as well. You can, I mean, there's Amazon, there's Etsy, there's all these different outlets, but my experience is that the best results are going to be at the cons. If you go to a con and you sell even just 50 books, it's going to pay for your game. If you sell, like some of my buddies, like you sell 500 to 1,000 books at a big con, I mean, you're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars for that weekend. So that's where you're going to move the most books. That's where you're going to get, and you're going to get your email list that way too. You're going to get your hard email list, people who actually have the book in their hand and they give you their contact information. I make sure everybody that I sell a book to at a con, I get their email and their phone number, and then I contact them and thank them for being there. I get them on the short list for the next Kickstarter. I send them out a free sticker and stuff like that in the mail, just to make sure that they know they're part of the family.
Nice. Yeah, that's what I preach is if you essentially go through the direct market or create a Kickstarter campaign to break even on it, and then you really profit through the merch and selling at cons and things like that. And as
Yeah.
long as you do the accounting correctly and print more than just to cover the cost for the campaign so that you can actually make more money on the tail end.
And you mentioned
So
you mentioned merch, and I just want to throw this out here. This came in just today. This is the cover of the third issue, and you can see I have it signed there, and I put it in my own sleeve. Comic creators can do this. This isn't graded by a company, but it looks like it is. It looks pretty sweet. So you can do this for affordable prices. Throw that in your Kickstarter. Throw it on your table with your con. I mean, can you imagine getting number one and the card? Now that is a sweet duo, man. That's
oh
sweet.
yeah, that's awesome. It really makes it a whole collectible package right there.
Right.
I guess so. Give me just the 1 or 2 sentence log line of the whole series one more time, and then
Yeah.
the actual log line for this current campaign that's live.
Yeah. So log line, you mean like the link, or you mean the one sentence blurb about what we're
Yeah,
doing?
like the blurb.
Yeah. So blood disorders, human experiments, adding biomachinery and cybernetics to the person that complement the blood disorder, transforming it into blood powers, and then using that blood power for nefarious purposes within the lineage of the bloodline, the leaders, the Illuminati, secret society. That's pretty much the layout of the story. But there's all the drama of it. There's the trauma and the drama that Orphan Bloodline is about. I mean, one guy who's a buddy of mine, he was reading Orphan Bloodline for me to give me some reviews. And I said, how was issue 2? And he goes, I didn't read issue 2. And I said, well, where'd you stop? He goes, I stopped at issue 1. I wouldn't move on. And I said, why is that? And he says, it was too dark for me. And I felt disappointed. I felt frustrated. Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I messed up. I came home and I said to my son, who helped me create some characters, I said, Mason, he didn't want to read on. He said it was too dark. What do you think? Do we mess up? And he says, not dark enough. So, I don't know what to do. My son is it's the dark side. We're all Sith. We're all Sith in this household. So
Hey, yeah, he's just not part of your audience. You got, you got to go to those who like the dark. That's actually my tagline for my company, those who seek the dark.
Okay, there you go. We'll send
Yeah,
you
so
on it.
if you're not into dark stuff, I don't even care or reach out to you.
Yeah.
So what do you have anything else that you want to give us insight on? Any successes that you had that you want to let my audience is all about the business of comics and indie film. So if you have any
Yeah.
insights more into that, you can give us that, numbers or
Yeah.
tips and tricks that you want to give us before I let you go. That's what we want
Well,
to hear.
something else, and you guys can message me personally, and I'll talk with you easily. We're all open in this community, which is great. I was a producer on a local TV show that was on YouTube. We actually won a Telly Award, which is a high acclaim for straight to digital TV shows. It was called Tattoos and Turnpikes, and how we succeeded was we produced high quality with great character. And so I tell anybody that's going to create a story or a movie or a comic book or whatever, create good story that's gripping, that's great character. I said trauma and drama. That's what I'm throwing out there. So that's what I recommend is that you need to make sure that your books are page turners. When you get to the bottom of that comic page, when you're at the bottom of that book, about that page, you better want to turn that page over. And if you don't, then you got to redo the panels. And so this takes a lot of planning and a lot of writing. Don't be one of the creators, which I don't recommend this. So don't do this. Don't be one of those creators who throws a whole bunch of content down on a sheet and then hands that sheet over to the artist and say, draw me this. No. You have to be the script writer. You have to be the dialogue creator. You have to be the storyboarder. You have to be the storyteller. And if you don't have all that working before you go to the art, then you're just going to spend money on art that's not going to be the best you can be. So spend some time there, a lot of time.
Great insight. Couldn't agree more. All right. I'll put
Oh,
all the links in
one
the
more
show
thing.
notes.
One more
Yeah.
thing. My first comic, issue 1 and 2, Kickstarter, it closed in like March 1st or something like that. And I was supposed to, maybe it was February, I was supposed to be sending it out by April 1st, you know? I didn't send it out until September. I was like 3+ months late. And people were messaging, saying, hey, what about this thing I backed? What about it's 3 months now? And I was sending updates and telling what's going on. But the reality was I got so much feedback on my early PDFs that I sent out that I had to pause and fix things. I had to pause and edit. I had to go back and change things around. And this is Kickstartering. This is Indiegogo going. This is crowdfunding. You want, as a creator, you want the feedback to come in. And as a buyer, you need to have some patience for those people who really want to give you the highest quality product they can. Give them a few months to make sure they have the right thing for you. Because if they already have it written and they already have it colored and they already have it printed and then you do the Kickstarter and right away they send you that book right away, well, that sounds fun, but now they don't have any feedback. They don't have any, they can't change what they've done now. And I really appreciate the fact that I had those 3 months with lots of feedback coming in that I could make those changes to make this book as good as it is.
Nice. I actually did the same thing even with my book in the direct market. After all the 6 issues came out, before the trade comes out later this year, and but I made some adjustments from thanks, yeah, from feedback from the a lot of the feedback I got was about the comic was like not the storyline dark, although it was dark, but the actual visuals were, the contrast was kind of screwed up.
Okay.
And so we fixed that for the trade, along with some more clarity and some of the panels. So yeah, it's great to be able to take that feedback and be like, well, I can use it. And yeah, I never even thought to do that. Like before it's like, yeah, you have they backed it, but they're not expecting it right away. Yeah. Make it more what they want. You tailor to what they basically what they bought. Cool. Well, especially since you are local, definitely keep in touch with me. Let me know if you go to any local conventions that I can try to make it to as well.
Right.
So
we want to do that.
Yeah, maybe we can share a table or something, split the cost.
What do you think about Fan Expo? I just found out, I should know this earlier, but I just found out that they've closed now. They're not doing St. Louis anymore. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe that Yeah, that's not happening, but there's something else that's taking its place. It seems like every year, whatever used to be the thing, that company might disband, but some other new or other company takes that slot and tries to do it, and it's labeled something differently. So I'm not sure about, yeah, so the Fan Expo not happening, but there's something else that's pretty big name that I think is taken around that same time. But as
Mhm.
for like the rest of this year, I don't have anything planned to go to.
Right.
Except, but starting next year, I think there's some STL Anime Con, the Mighty
Yeah.
Con.
Mhm.
There's and yeah, there's a few that I need to kind of set down which ones I'm gonna try and go for. But yeah, I haven't dove into doing a whole like circuit yet because I just don't have enough time. But now
Right.
I'm going to have enough content this year to where it'll actually be quite profitable if I actually just make it to a lot more. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, this is the tables cost too much. This is flat truth. These cons, the tables cost too much. And what I see more than not is the creators walk away breaking even, but they've spread their word. And to be honest, that's just not good enough. We need to make money too. And so sharing a table is the way it's going to be. When I go to a con, maybe it's you and me, maybe it's me and somebody else. When I go to a con, we're going to split a hotel, we're going to split a car rental or whatever. We're going to split the table cost because I don't want to do this where I got to break even or lose money to go to a con. I want to make money and spread the word both. And the only way to do that is by sharing costs.
Yeah, I can't afford to just break even anymore. It's like, yeah, I can get the word. That is nice, but yeah, it's like if I'm going to make the investment in time and money to go to some of these bigger cons and pay $800 plus for a table, I'm
Right.
going to expect to actually hustle there and make the trip worthwhile. But yeah, okay. So I think we covered a lot of ground. And so, like I said, I'll leave all the links to the Kickstarter in the show notes along with your website and everything else. And any last final words?
Let's have fun. Let's keep positive. Let's create something. When you're sending out colorful books, when you get them in the mail, post them and share. Let's keep it live. And let's keep supporting the Kickstarters and the different packages. I think I backed, I don't know, 10 this month already. And it's just $5. I'm not talking about spending $25 on a Kickstarter. I'll go in and I'll throw them a couple bucks because I want to back as many as I can and keep as many people as I can moving forward. So if you're out there and you have $5, throw it my way, throw it whichever way you want, and let's keep people getting some positive feedback. I think we need that in this industry.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm a strong supporter of supporting the community. I think that's what makes this community so fun and so strong and why we continue to do this. It seems strange to just kind of be like looking out for your own and ignoring everybody else, but some
Right.
people do that. All right, man. Well, thanks a lot for coming on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch. And good luck with the rest of the campaign. How many more days
Thank you
is it
so
live?
much. Oh, just a week. This coming Sunday it ends. I decided to do a quick 2.5 week campaign because I didn't like these 5 and 6 week campaigns of always pushing out your stuff. I just want to get the people who are most interested to back it, and then we'll move on because I don't have time to be pushing for six
No,
weeks
yeah,
on
I feel you.
social.
2 to 3 weeks
Yeah,
or whatever. But okay, cool. Yeah, then I will try to post this tomorrow and get people there.
awesome, man. Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And we're gonna get together sometime here in St. Louis.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks a lot,
All
man.
right.
Catch you
See
later.
ya.